Hello everyone. I'm Cevdet Acarsoy from Gelecek Bilim'de, and for the first timers here, Gelecek Bilim'de means future is science in Turkish. We are mainly a Turkish science communication channel. We're broadcasting on YouTube and Twitch. Our content, you can find it there, but we are also doing some international content, which is in English content. So let me first, today we will talk about mental well-being in workplace, and I will invite our guest shortly. But before that, let me introduce us really quickly. So who are we? So if you go to our website and use the translate to English option, we didn't translate it yet, but Google does a really good job on that. So we are a science communication platform aiming to bridge between society and academia and the science. And we have more than 40 young volunteers to do so. And we think it's not a popular science, not a popularized science, but make it a communication between the real science and the audience, such as yourself. So here are some statistics we have. You can also listen this video as a podcast on any favorite podcast app. And we have some common core principles like using innovative technology, collaborating with other platforms, and using the scientific references in the formats. And you can, as I said, watch us from Twitch and YouTube, and you can download the content. For example, if there's a presentation today, I will ask from our guest to upload it to our cloud, source cloud. Then you can download it from the source cloud, so like an open science kind of way. And if she will recommend some books, you can find those on our Goodreads account. And lastly, if you want to chat about science, we have a Discord server, so you can join the voice chat there. And let me just show you really quickly about our team also. So who are we? The question is, we founded the Gelecek Bilim'de together with Burak Çankaya, and then we have different teams such as technical team, guest team, and to invite guests, social media communication team, and also directory team, like this stream. And we also have streamers, some broadcasters here, and we also have a website like this, and we have articles. So for the articles, we have authors and editors there. And if you want to watch our content, I said mainly, so 90% of our content is in Turkish, but there are also many English content with our collaborations and our own videos. So you can find them in our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube/Gelecek Bilim'de, and then you will see it here on the playlists. You will see English content playlist, and if you go there, you will find some really good English content. Also, one of them is being live now. Okay, without further ado, let me invite our guest, my esteemed colleague and friend from Erasmus Medical Center Epidemiology Department. She's also a PhD candidate there, and working on the social factors in cognitive decline and dementia, very important topic. So without further ado, let me invite Isabelle to the stream. Isabelle, welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Hello. Good evening. Sorry for the long introduction, but I think it's needed for the newcomers. I kept you waiting a little bit. So how are you this beautiful evening?
Good. It's Saturday night. It's prime time. I'm excited. This is my first time here on the live stream on YouTube, so excited to get the show on the road.
Yes. So again, thank you for accepting my invitation to this stream. I thought you presented something like that in our department, and I thought it's a really important topic, and many more people should be aware of the mental well-being challenges, or like the factors that affect our mental well-being in workplace or academia, in different environments. So you will. So this is a real, I think, scientific presentation, but we make it simpler for general audience. Of course, you make it so she will present us a real good topic. And during the presentation, I'm told by Isabelle that you can ask questions on the chat, and I will direct those questions to her. And it will be an interactive live stream. So prepare your smartphones ready while watching this, we will have your input also on the presentation. So shall we start? You ready?
Let's get started.
Okay.
Yes.
And the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, and if you feel hesitant to ask questions in the chat in English, you can also type in Turkish or in your language of preference, and we'll do our best to translate.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So thank you all for joining. This is a seminar that I gave in April this year in our department, and I tweaked it a little bit so that it's also suitable for a little bit more of a wide audience, but it will be primarily focused on students and people working in academia. But I think you'll find a lot of the tips and tricks will also be applicable to other situations. And I do want to stress that, or give like a disclaimer that I am not a therapist. These tips and tricks are mainly from personal experience. And I do encourage you to use these as a guide and not as a tool to diagnose yourself with anything. So with that, keep that in mind, and I will guide you through the first slides. I will first give a brief introduction about myself and about the workplaces that I have been in myself. So I am from this country called the Netherlands, and I started my professional career with a part-time job in my hometown of Monnikendam. I worked here as a teenager on a cheese farm. So I walked around in costumes like this, which was came with its own challenges, being a teenager in a part-time job in a small town. So yeah, that was a good start. Then at the same time, I went to high school in Amsterdam. There were no silly costumes there, just going to school. After that, I moved to Leiden, it's a little bit more south, and I went to medical school there in the LMC. That's where I also took a part-time job in home care. I helped elderly people with their activities of daily living, both in their homes and in nursing homes. And I really took an interest into geriatrics, and I decided to do a master's degree at the Leiden Academy on Vitality and Aging, which is where I learned a lot about geriatrics, and my interest in research sparked. And that's also where I met a mentor who made it possible for me to go abroad to the United States for a few months. I did an internship in Northwestern Medical Center, where in Chicago. That's where I really took an interest in science, and I was able to do some experiments with lumbar punctures and cerebrospinal fluid in dementia research. And after that, I really decided I would like to do a PhD. So after I finished medical school, I moved to Rotterdam, which is where I am now, and where I started doing my PhD. I started in 2018, and I am now 3 years in. My first day or my first experience in that workplace was not what I expected, because we started with a giant stuffed giraffe right in the center of the office. But over time, it became more like you would expect an academic workplace to be. And 2 years later, a year later, here I presented my research on social health, the brain, and cognitive function.
Okay. You know, at my first day, when I come to the PhD interview, I also saw the giraffe, and then it was like at the end of the corridor, and from afar, I was like thinking, "What's going on? Where am I?" Like, yeah, in this office. But then they removed it. I think now I don't
think so.
Or like
I don't know where it went.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a good experience to start with a stuffed animal in your new job.
Yeah. And our audience is no foreigner to Leiden, because I'm living in Leiden and I talk about it a lot. And when I was working in LUMC for neuroscience experiments with fMRI scanner, I was always showing the interior of the hospital in our social media. So they definitely know at least the first floor and the art gallery in the entrance. So they know about it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there too, but I think our paths never crossed at the same time there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. So no more pictures of Leiden coming up, so take it in while you can. And I'll go to the next slide. So aside from the giraffe, when I first started working, I thought it was going to be like this picture. And for a while, it was like this. It was a lot of fun and it was very motivating. But then things started to slowly go downhill and it became more like this picture. But I didn't really notice it. It happened very slowly. And I've been struggling with my mental well-being for a while already. And then the pandemic happened. And that really was the last drop in my proverbial bucket. And I had to go on sick leave for a few months to make sure my mental well-being got better and get back on track. So I did make a full recovery and I was back at work after a few months. And then I began to notice that actually many people around me also seem to be in this bottom picture, like in the same boat that I was in before things got really bad. And they didn't really seem to know what to do with it, just like me before, and didn't really know how to recognize that you're not doing well, just like me before. So that's when I contacted the PI of our psychiatric epidemiology group, Annemarie Luik, and we started talking about small interventions that we could do in our department just to make it easier to ask for help if you need it, if you notice that your mental well-being at work is not where you would like it to be. And that's when we came up with this seminar. This was the kickoff. And now here we are, extending this to a new public. So that's the background of this seminar. And we will talk first about what is mental well-being, specifically mental well-being at work. How do you recognize mental well-being? And what can you start doing if you feel like you want to improve some of your mental well-being or maintain it if you feel like you're in a great place?
Very crucial points. Very,
yes.
I just like our director of this live stream, Boost, they just wrote in the private chat like that she's always like the bottom picture. So like let's also like we will ask it now, but I think it's really common and then it's really crucial.
Very, yeah. Let's see where we are at. So go to menti.com and you can fill in the code. I think it's also at the bottom, the top of the screen here. Yes.
I made it bigger, so like you can either use your smartphone to scan the code on the live stream now, or go to menti.com and use the code. And then you can select how the question is which picture, right? That they
which picture describes your situation right now.
It could be also study, not just work, but also study. Keep in mind. Okay. So votes are coming. Okay, we have one vote already. I also pasted the link, so if you are watching from YouTube, you can just click the link. Maybe it's easier. Okay, results are coming in. Okay, for the newcomers, let me repeat. We're just doing the interactive bit. You can contribute to this live stream now. If you go to menti.com and use the code on the screen, and you can vote which image best describes your current work or study situation. So just to have like an understanding of where we are, right, Isabelle?
Yeah.
Where is our audience?
It's all anonymous, so don't worry about us being able to trace this back to you.
Yeah. Or your boss or supervisor won't see this, won't know that you selected which picture. Okay, 4 people already. It's coming in slow.
I do think there are more than 4 people watching, right?
Yeah, there are more people watching, but I don't know. So is it a problem, like write on the chat if you don't want to vote, or if there's a technical problem that you cannot vote? Please write to chat so we know. Okay. If you don't want to vote, that's also okay, right? But just let us know so we know what's going on. Okay.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Nope. Well, we can also keep it open and proceed with the presentation for a bit, and then we may come back to this slide. And also, you can just maybe, if you are feeling hesitant to reply to the Menti, can you just think for yourself, in which picture are you?
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of a hard time reading the numbers because it's a bit far away from me, but looks like it's 3 to 4.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. All right.
Okay. So I let our volunteers know also that maybe they want to vote, so more people maybe can vote. So now I'm thinking, where am I? Like, I didn't vote, so I can vote and one more, maybe.
It can also change, maybe even changes during the day. You're in one picture at one moment before lunch, maybe you're in the one on the right, and after lunch you're on the one on the left.
Yeah, that's good that you said it, because like maybe they were having difficulty of, in general, like which one. So now I'm like option 1. So now, but there are definitely times that, like days like this, like on the right picture.
Yeah.
Now, like, not that it's weekend, but like last Friday was really nice. So I left it, like I paused it on the left picture. Let's see how Monday goes.
Yeah, Mondays are usually more like the picture on the right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's all right if they change. You don't have to stay in one picture. Do we want to give people a bit more time, or shall we?
Yeah, we can continue. I think we have like a representative vote.
Yeah.
So a little bit on the right side, we see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
which is to be expected. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So first I'll talk a bit about what is mental well-being actually. There's a lot of different definitions out there, but I like this one. It says it's being able to cope with the ups and downs of everyday life and the thoughts and feelings that come with it. And it's important to note that those thoughts and feelings don't have to be positive, because of course there's a ton of also negative thoughts that come with the ups and downs of everyday life. And it's really just being able to cope with those stressors. Your mental well-being can be affected by a number of things. I'll start here on the bottom with mental health conditions. So of course, having a diagnosis or undiagnosed mental health condition can impact your mental well-being in a way that it might lead to your mental well-being being a bit lower for longer periods of time, but you also may still have very long stretches of good mental well-being, even if you have a mental health condition. It may be more easy to visualize what this may look like if you think of life stressors and life events. Those can impact your mental well-being, and those can be things like changing a job or getting a new job, changing a position at work, moving house, having children, getting married, losing someone. All of those are life stressors that happen to all of us, and they can definitely impact your mental well-being. But definitely that also coincides with your resilience and your coping abilities. How are you able to deal with those life stressors? That really determines how your mental well-being is impacted by those stressors. And of course, your social relationships, but also your physical health and your emotional health will have an impact on how you are able to cope with the everyday, day-to-day stressors.
So
But
it's
also
like,
the other way around.
oh yeah, sorry. So it's like mental health conditions, like disorders, psychological disorders, are like taking it down, a negative effect, life stressors. And it's really interesting. I just want to point out that you counted on the life stressors, positive things also. Any change is a stressor. So getting married is usually positive, or like having a new job is usually positive, but still a stress. Just for our audience to recognize that in psychology, change equals to stress. Doesn't matter what type of change, so those are like make bad impact on our well-being. But then if we have the resilience and coping abilities, or like good relationships, physical health, that's a protective effect. That's what I understood.
Yes,
Here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, your life events like having a child or getting married can also have a very positive effect on your mental well-being. But also, every change is stressful. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Your level of mental well-being also affects those other things in your life, like your mental health condition. But it will also your level of mental well-being will also impact your ability to cope, and it will also have an effect on your relationships and your physical and emotional health. If you're feeling good and if you're able to cope with everyday life, that's gonna have an effect on how you behave in your relationships and how you feel physically too. So what does it look like? With a bit more practical, it is about feeling confident in yourself. It's about being able to build but also maintain positive relationships with other people. It can be having a sense of purpose, however big or small that is for you. It is about living and working productively, and again, that's the same goes whatever that may be to you. The one level of productivity for one person may not be the same as the level of someone else, and that's fine. It's really for if it's satisfactory for yourself. Being able to cope with the normal stresses of day-to-day life, like it says in the description, because of course every day-to-day life has its own stresses, and definitely I think the past year and a half we came to know about that, and being able to manage when things change, and that brings us into the next topic, because for all of us, the past year and a half, a lot of things have changed in our everyday day-to-day life, and some of us were able to cope with it and some of us were not. So this is a very great example of a life stressor and a life event. Of course, talking about COVID, and the past year and the past months especially, there's been a lot of surveys coming out and a lot of attention on mental well-being and mental health around the world, which is really great. I'll give a few examples that stood out for me. Something that I also included in our earlier seminar. This was in our own Erasmus University. There was a mental well-being survey among university employees. And the main conclusion there was that the employees are still holding on, although they are busy and they are stressed, but they are not at a level of burnout yet. More follow-up data on this will be collected, but for now this was the conclusion. In a paper in UK universities, or research in UK universities, they found that for academics, the adjustment to academic life under COVID was dramatic and made working much more intense. For some people, it was a work intensification, and for others, they lost their job. And they said the impact of the pandemic was mostly negative. In Singapore, schools are working on mental well-being and mental health in students that have been going through homeschooling most of the year and online teaching, which also is very significant for younger students. This is also from Dutch universities called the Caring Universities Consortium, which is, I think it's great. The results are still coming in, but it's about mental well-being during the pandemic too. And here the BBC also reported on students saying that their mental health got worse during the pandemic. So I think this will keep going for a while still, while we're still in this pandemic. And of course, it's great that there's so much attention for mental well-being in the workplace during COVID. But I think it's good to take a moment and realize that it's not just the work environment, of course, that's stressful about this pandemic. This is one more from a Nature series on mental well-being in academia, which actually mentions pandemic burnout. So specifically, really getting burnout complaints from pandemic-related changes in life with childcare obligations, working from home, just being stressed about the whole situation. But now, while we're coming out of what seems to be coming out of the pandemic in some parts of the world, see how long this lasts, but that can also come with its own stressors. Returning back to normal may be very stressful. Maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you don't want to go back to normal life. Maybe the normal life that you had before the pandemic was stressful in itself, and it's difficult to navigate all the changes that are happening now with countries opening up, but still seeing spikes. All of it is very stressful. So it will probably stay like this for a while still. But it's also not like it was all good before the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, there were already cracks in the mental well-being, especially in this presentation, as I said, is focused on academia and academic life. I don't have the numbers for other work environments, so I'll stick to this for a little bit. But in the scientific work environment, there's very high competition. There's like a publish or perish culture, and it's a very good breeding ground for anxiety and depression. And I'll share with you a few graphs about mental well-being in graduate students. This is a study from 2018. It was an international study in 26 countries in over 230 institutions in more than 2,000 graduate students.
So does this cover like master students also, or just?
I think this is specifically for PhD students and graduate students.
Okay. Yeah.
It may depend, of course, on the university if it's applicable also for master students, but I think some of it will be, especially if you're working on your thesis and you're working kind of in a high stress research environment. This may very well be applicable to master students too. Yeah.
Although those numbers, as you said, in for academia, but I don't think like many other like fields of work is too different. So the level should change, but all of the workplaces, I think, and people can also jump in on the chat, like affected negatively by COVID. But one danger, maybe we will talk about it, but when you're talking about it, I felt that it is hard to admit that our mental well-being is not good. There's a stigma on it to say about it, because it's immediately taught as a weakness in our mind to tell. And when I was thinking about it, is it so much different than, I don't know, having cough or having fatigue because of a flu or corona? It's not that different, but there's a stigma around the mental well-being also. So it's also hard to accept that. but there's real data which are showing real data, not just common sense, because in common sense we think, oh, this will be affected, but now we see in general real data about the diagnoses in academia.
Yeah.
So it's also supported
exactly.
by evidence. Yeah.
Yes, and I think there's also, for me, what really helped to think about it was, we call it mental well-being, of course, but a lot of it is actually happening in the brain. That's not separate from your physical well-being or having a physical illness. Of course, it's different in the way we measure it. It's different in the way that we treat it in some ways, not all of it. But yes, there is a stigma, and hopefully talking about it more and more, also in terms of COVID, will help to reduce that stigma a little bit. Because we saw that most people, even though it's a small sample size, but most people here were in the sort of the burned out work environment picture, and it's difficult to admit that, especially if you're not anonymous. If you're anonymous on the Menti meter, then maybe it's a little bit easier, but even then it may be difficult to admit it.
Yeah. And for example, you said you took a sick leave because of a mental well-being problem, mental health problem. Even telling this like mental or physical health, it is health. So for health problems, we take sick leaves. That's so normal.
Exactly.
So even you telling this, I think it's really, really important. We have one question just here as like an addition to you. It's you can also see it like for the podcast, I will read it for the podcast people. So what about disease or disorders which is caused by anxiety or depression within academic people because of this mental well-being issue? So that's real as like an addition. So we see it's mental, as you said. It's mental, but it's still happening in the brain. That's real, that's physical. But also the results are higher in we call it somatic disorders. Many physical health problems can be triggered by anxiety and depression also.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not sure, I don't know if we have numbers on specific diseases or disorders caused by anxiety or depression, but yeah, I'm sure there's a ton. I don't have the numbers, but let's for now keep it at that. Anxiety and depression are on itself. If they're severe enough, there are diseases and disorders.
Yeah.
So we can keep it at that, I think, for now.
Yeah.
Without going into speculation on which physical illnesses coincide, because there's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So sorry for interrupting. Right. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Yes, mental well-being in academia. I'll just present a few numbers just to get an idea of what the situation is. So here you see how many people overall had anxiety and depression or depression in this group of 2,300 graduate students. And it was about 40%. That's very high. Like in the normal population, kind of depending on where you measure it, about 1 in 10 people has a mental well-being or a mental health disorder. So this is much higher than in the average population. If you look at differences between male and female participants, you see that the number is a little bit higher in female participants than in male participants, and it is much higher in transgender persons. And the same goes for depression. If we look at work-life balance, we see that of the people who said their work-life balance is unhealthy, more than half reported anxiety or depression. But if we look at the people who said I have a healthy life balance, it's only 1 out of 5 people who said they have anxiety or depression. So that's a very big difference. And in this graph, I won't go into too much detail here, but the pattern that you see is that for people who have anxiety or depression, they experience less support from their mentor than people without anxiety or depression in this specific group. So that's a little bit of the numbers. It's not, of course, applicable to every institution, but this definitely paints a picture. So what does all of this tell us? First of all, that mental well-being struggles are very common in the academic workplace, especially now during COVID. They may be exacerbated. If you are struggling with your mental health, you are not abnormal, weird, or weak. Mental well-being was already under stress prior to the pandemic, and it may definitely not go back to normal right away when life goes back to normal after the pandemic. It may be a very long time before it's back to normal or where you would like it to be. And that's okay. That's just a situation that we're in, and it doesn't make you weird or weak. So on to some more practical stuff and less science. How are you doing? How do you check your mental well-being? How do you know how you are or where you are with your mental well-being? So I'll go and share my experience first. What do I do? I'll be honest, before I got sick and I went into therapy, I had no idea. I just knew that I felt bad, and that's kind of it. So I didn't really check my mental well-being. But now, after therapy and after getting better, I have a ton of signs and symptoms that I can watch. For me, some of them are not being able to get out of bed in the morning, struggling with doing my cooking, for example, finding it difficult to take breaks at work is something that's a sign for me. And I have a few more. Our colleague who I presented the seminar with previously had a very specific sign where if she is under stress or if she feels like her mental well-being is getting worse, she starts having an eyelid twitch. That's when she knows that she has to take a break. And she also sometimes just goes and fills in some of the mental health questionnaires that we have in our research department. So that's also something that we can do. And I will actually now invite Cevdet to share what he does to check his mental well-being.
Yeah, thank you. So that got me thinking, being a psychologist and a psychotherapist in training, also I received also therapy. And among all that, I noticed that now you're telling me there are so few things that I check my mental health, mental well-being. One is when I feel tense around the shoulders, when I find myself tense and then want to relax, then I know like my anxiety is getting worse. Or the same thing, like difficulty getting out of the bed in the morning, or like having concentration problems, like so hard to concentrate on the tasks that I was doing previously with ease. Now it's so difficult because of concentration. And also like everyday tasks, you don't want to do them, or like you stall them, you postpone them. Then I know, okay, now it's time to take a break. And I think that's it. That's it. But those tools are really good way of checking it also, because when we ask ourselves, we don't remember right away, we don't recall them, but those questions can make us question ourselves, like, oh, do I do that? Do I not do that? Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So I think now it's time to ask our audience, what do you do to check your mental well-being? And we will go back to Menti again. You can fill in this code. Cevdet will go and share the presentation. How do you check your mental well-being? You can put in a few words in the word cloud. In this picture, the lady is asking the boy, do you love your job? And he starts crying. So
I love this GIF. I love this GIF. After the presentation that day in the department, when you presented before, I shared this on Twitter. It's so good, and I think there are really many people related to some days. Really like feel like that guy.
Absolutely,
yeah. So let me show it again. You can either scan the barcode or go to menti.com, use the same code. If you already open it to your phone, it will change to next question, so you don't have to do anything. And then you can enter there, what are you doing? Like the examples we have, or different things. Like what we're doing, how you understand that your mental well-being is not good, that you need to take a break, you need to do something.
Exactly. And this is also completely anonymous.
Yeah. So you can write, and we can have a word cloud. So how people check that. Yeah.
And then afterwards, I will share a few slides on signs and symptoms, so we can see how many were already in the word cloud.
Yeah.
That you already all know about.
Let's see if we have some results. Press S to hide image. Yeah.
Yes, some results are coming in.
Yeah. Low energy, muscle tension, low mood, crying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think these are all relatable.
Yeah. I can't check. So they don't know what to how to check. That's also nice.
Yeah, that's very common, and thank you for putting that in. Yes.
Yeah.
It's something we don't really learn about, so it's not strange if you don't know how to check your mental well-being.
Yeah. Low mood, low energy, like hard to get out of bed or hard to do normal tasks.
Feel like you're dragging in the day.
And maybe not having a sense of purpose, like I'm doing so with work. After a while it can happen, right? Like I'm working, but why I'm working I don't know. I'm just doing it like a robot and machine all the time. It could also happen.
I think definitely autopilot. It's something that many people at some point in study or in work, I think, come at autopilot.
Yeah.
See, checking feelings. Reading. I see someone said reading. Feeling overwhelmed. Being stringent. That's a very important one, I think.
For reading, I'm tired, feeling tired also, I see. Reading, I didn't know, like maybe want to read more or something, like a retreat or something, maybe.
Or maybe reading about symptoms, maybe Googling and seeing what the internet says.
Lucio in chat, he said he used like a very specific Turkish word. It's hard to translate, but let me check. It's also a very common feeling. Let me. How can I? Irritation. Yeah, he says, or he or she says, irritation, feeling irritated. That's also really like not always, oh, I'm bad or something. If you're extra, angry, or how do you say, low-tempered, short-tempered, like easy to get irritated, easy to get angry, or easy to get overwhelmed. That's also a sign. Is being thorny. Need a rest, I think. They say, okay. Now also there are remedies, I see, like relationships, nutrition, maybe.
Good. Yeah, these are all good inputs. And yes, the feeling irritated is that's an important one too. I think that also many people will recognize.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's good to see that our
Yavuz says about the reading, I think he wrote that. He explains he that means he reads to check depression signs, like going out and checking. So
good. Yeah. Yes. It's a very effective way to go about it. Yeah. It can sometimes also be difficult if you're feeling down to take that step and actually go and look what your symptoms mean. So, yeah. Well, it's good to see that there are so many responses coming in. Seems like people have found the the Menti and the website.
Yeah, the second one was quicker, right? Like people also get used to it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, shall we continue to the
Yes, let's
presentation?
move on.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go in the next few slides, we'll go over some of the signs and symptoms. But first, let me say that recognizing how you're doing in terms of mental well-being is not just how you feel emotionally. And it can even be very difficult to identify your emotions, right? So sometimes we just know that we feel bad and that's it. So sometimes it may be easier to look at what are you actually doing, what are your behaviors, or how you are doing in terms of physical well-being, because sometimes that's a little bit more tangible to identify than your emotions. So in the next few slides, we'll go over three very common mental well-being or mental health conditions or stressors that many people experience at some point. So the first one is stress. So what can you notice when in your mental state when you're stressed? We already said this, but difficulty concentrating is very common. Struggling to make decisions can be difficult if you're worrying about other things, or if you're feeling overwhelmed. It can become complicated to make a decision that you normally didn't struggle to make. You can be constantly worrying about certain things, and because your mental capacity is going to those worries and going to those struggles, you can start to become forgetful. So that's actually very common, that during times of stress you may not remember everything like you did before, and that can in itself then also lead to stress. So there can be a vicious cycle here. In terms of behavior and physical well-being, someone of course already said this too, being irritable or snappy to other people or people around you. If you're overwhelmed, it can be sometimes difficult to have another person come in and say something, and then sometimes you just snap. You can have trouble sleeping, with either sleeping too much or sleeping too little. Stress maybe keeping you up at night, or you're so exhausted from the stress that you actually start to sleep more. The same goes for eating. Food can be comfort here for some people, or maybe you're just even too stressed to eat. Stress can also lead to avoiding certain places or certain people. If you're already feeling overwhelmed, you're probably not going to go to places or to see people that may add to your feeling of being overwhelmed. And it's also very common in times of stress for people to start drinking or smoking more as a coping mechanism. Oh. Then
yeah, there's a question in chat.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's nice to like all those three. He asked like, so what's the duration of these changes? So after how much time we should be, considering, oh, this is real, or how is temporary?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like for some disorders, they're real like criteria for diagnosis, but actually they're just for diagnosis, like for, I don't know, for usually now in the psychology field of psychotherapy also, it's like really uncommon to check for example, in depression is 2 weeks, and really uncommon to check, oh, it's 14 days or 13 days. No, it's just like these are so for the days, from my side I can say it is you feel that is affecting your daily life. It's changing your daily life, and the time is, I don't know, if more than a couple of days, if it's a constant, I think that's even enough. Doesn't have to be weeks or months, right? But what do you think?
I agree. Yes, I think it's also good to acknowledge that being stressed is also normal. Feeling stressed from time to time is very, very normal and common. But like you said, if it starts to impact your ability to function, then that's when you may need to think about maybe talking to someone or reaching out. Again, this is not a webinar where we diagnose people. So if you feel like you maybe are on that threshold, then do reach out to someone in your environment. We will get to that in a little bit later in the seminar. But I definitely agree, if it's taking too long for yourself, and that can be from a few days to a few weeks. Some people can last months and be able to cope. But if you feel like it's taking too long, then that's already enough of a threshold, I think.
Trust your feelings on that. Exactly. And no diagnosis here, of course. Somebody asks about depression diagnosis. We cannot make diagnosis on a live stream. Also, if you feel like that, just consult a psychiatrist, consult your doctor. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we are just sticking here to common symptoms that you may run into. So next I will go into anxiety symptoms. These are also very, very common. And there's a very wide spectrum of having normal level anxiety to having anxiety that is really affecting your day-to-day life. And there's a number of anxiety disorders that can go from very specific situations where your anxiety is triggered to having a more generalized state of anxiety. But again, we are not here diagnosing. These are symptoms that you may experience and that you may recognize and say, oh, this is what I'm going through. That may means that I'm anxious. So what you can notice in your mental state is that you're feeling tense or nervous, may be triggered to a certain situation, but doesn't have to be. May be very difficult for you to relax, even after work or studying has stopped. It may be still going on in your mind, thinking about worries related to work and studying or other life events. That may be also worries about events that have happened already or things that will still happen. And that may make it very difficult to concentrate. And it also may lead you to being emotional or feeling tearful. It can be like feeling like the worst is going to happen, and you may have a sense of dread. For some people that have had traumatic experience, it may also involve having memories of those traumatic events coming in. And it can also be obsessive thoughts, where it's really almost impossible to switch those thoughts off. So those are mental things that you can notice with anxiety. But on the behavior and physical side, you may notice that it's difficult to look after yourself. It may be difficult for you to put in the self-care that you used to put into maybe your appearance or maybe your food or your hygiene, because you have really other things on your mind to worry about. It may be also difficult for you to maintain social relationships or form new relationships, also because it's those worries and those anxieties may also impact your social life. It can lead you to wanting to avoid trying new things, because it can be scary to do new things, or to avoid places and situations that may trigger your worries or your anxiety. Some people also notice that they have compulsive behavior. That means they have to do a specific type of actions that they also cannot really switch off. And it may also interfere with your ability to sleep. And then we'll go to
before we go to the depression, for the anxiety. Actually, the physical symptoms are sometimes the first thing that a person notices. So these are like somatic symptoms, like that happens on the body. So listening your body, like if you're feeling tense, real tense with the muscles, or if you're feeling your heart is beating too powerful, you feel the heartbeat, or any other, feeling cold, like shivering, tremors, those kinds of things also could be, I'm not saying for certain, it could be a sign of anxiety. So it's always good to listen your physical body, not too much listen, but in general listen, and what your body tells you. How do you feel? So just wanted to add to the physical side, because sometimes it's also really the first thing that a person notices. Oh, this kind of situation, I always feel tense and my hands get cold or something. And then, oh, okay. So after thinking about it, oh, maybe there's a name for that. That's anxiety and it's normal, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
and in the chat, there are some questions, but Lucia says all the symptoms, she says, she have. And what else? Yeah, one question from, is coping mechanisms always a bad thing? Shall we do we have something on that, or shall we answer that at the end? Because
there may be something to answer at the end, because we'll go into some tips and tricks and coping styles too.
Because she asked, like, I don't know how to cope with depression or stress in a healthy way, so we will show some healthy ways, healthy tips in short. Yeah.
Okay, then we'll go to the slide on low mood and depression. That's also very, very common. Mental signs that you can experience are having a very low or sad mood, where there's not a lot of ups and downs in the mood, but it's mostly just being down. It can be difficult to enjoy doing things that you normally enjoyed, and you may also feel angry or frustrated, sometimes with a good reason. Sometimes there's not really a reason to find for it. People with low mood and depression, they have low confidence or low self-esteem. That's really depression talking to them. That can lead to a sense of hopelessness about the future and being able to come out of the depression. A lot of people with depression report on being very tired, and also not being able to concentrate. And for people with low mood and depression, there may also sometimes be suicidal thoughts, which are very common with depression. And I do want to say that if you are experiencing suicidal thoughts and you feel like you are in need of help or are in a situation where it's dangerous for yourself, then please do reach out to a mental health professional. I know in the Netherlands you can call 113. And in Turkey, there's not, I think, a specific hotline that you can call, but Cevdet informed me that you can call 112 if you are in need of acute help. So please know that there is help available if you are in a situation where you need help. I will also go through some of the behavioral and physical well-being symptoms that you can experience. So again, being irritable and snappy is very common also with low mood and depression. Being able to sleep too much or too little, where you set your alarm at 7 a.m. and then suddenly it's 10 and you're still in bed, or your depression is keeping you up at night. Here too, eating too much or too little can be very common. It can be difficult to make food for yourself, or you maybe take comfort out of eating more. And also avoiding places or people is very common here. Having to cope with drinking or smoking more. And very common in depression and low mood is not being able to get going, to really not have the initiative to do something with the situation or do something about the situation. And it can also lead to harming yourself. It can be various reasons for that we won't go into. But again, here, if you feel like you are in a situation where you need help right this moment, please do call one of those telephone numbers that we mentioned, so 113 or 112 if you're in Turkey, or reach out to a mental health professional in your area. So I will move on to the next slide. It's a little bit more on physical symptoms, so you can actually check this with yourself right now and ask yourself, how is your sleep right now? Are you having trouble sleeping, or are you actually sleeping peacefully? How is your breath? Are you breathing in your chest, or are you breathing in your belly? Are you maybe holding your breath sometimes? Are you holding your breath right now? If so, then take a deep breath. Are your muscles tense? Are you sitting like this? Or is your neck hurting? Is your back hurting? Especially after sitting a whole day, maybe that your neck and your back are feeling tense. How does your stomach feel? For some people, this is also an area where they can feel that they're stressed. Definitely for me, I'll be honest, with doing this live stream, I was a little bit nervous. So I did feel it in my belly that I was a bit nervous. and now it's better because I think it's a good talk. How is your appetite? Or do you have any changes in your eating habits? Do you have headaches? It can also be that having tense shoulders and neck can also lead to you having headaches or tension headaches if you're feeling stressed. And do you have, like Annemarie does, do you have maybe twitching body parts or maybe twitching eyelids? Those are all things that you can check right now or can check after this live stream is over, and go back and see how your body is feeling. If you find it difficult to recognize the emotions, which is very normal because it's not something that we learn about. There are also online tools that you can use to check in with yourself, and I think we'll try to post these links after the live stream too. So you can go back and click on some of these links. These are just very short tools, and they will give you an advice after you fill them in on where to go and what you can start doing if you feel like you need help. And this is just a checklist on questions that you can ask yourself, or you can ask someone else that you maybe are worried about their mental health. These are some questions that you can ask. You don't have to ask all 10 of them. You can just, put in one question here and there and see how you are doing. So this will be up, of course, in a little bit after the live stream, so you can go back and just see for yourself. So I won't dwell on this too much. So what can we do about our mental well-being? Now that we talked about all of these symptoms and signs, and maybe some of you are sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I have all of them. Or maybe you have none of them. Of course, it's perfectly possible too. Maybe you have some and you're not sure what to do with it. So here are going to be some things that we can do about our mental well-being. I don't know if there's any friends, watchers out here listening. I do think this is a funny joke where it can feel like you tell someone, just reduce my workload and then I'll be better at work. I'll be less stressed. And then here the company comes with another mental health webinar. And it can maybe feel like this is another one of those mental health webinars. What's the difference that this is going to make? So yes, reducing workloads can be a very good tool to improve employee well-being, but sometimes it's not possible to reduce the workload. Maybe there's limited funds, limited staff that make it impossible to spread the workload across different people. Maybe there's a global pandemic that has increased the workload hugely. Maybe you are in research and you carry the responsibility for your own research and you cannot really have it reduced. Maybe it is the norm in the field that you work in, that you have this workload and you feel like it's even impossible to ask to have the workload reduced. But also workload it's not just objective, it's also how you experience your workload. And we'll go into that a little bit more. But especially when your workload is high and you feel like the pressure of it is high, and it may not easily be reduced, that's exactly the moment where it's important to take care of our mental well-being. And that's also where the workload versus work pressure comes in. For some people, their workload may be very high, or some people think it's very high, but they're able to cope with it very well. And the same may go for yourself. The workload that you had maybe a few months ago, maybe it was very easy to do it then. You have the same workload now, and maybe it's very difficult for you to cope with it right now. So how you experience it makes a big difference. And also that makes also different in how to cope with it. So with work pressure, this is something that I borrowed from the employee well-being monitor that our university, the Erasmus University, did earlier this year. They gave a few advices, and they did identify that high work pressure was a big problem and led to reduced well-being in their employees. So how do you tackle high work pressure? Because for employee needs, those are can be very different among employees. So it's important to really look at the individual. And individuals like proactive support. They like it if people reach out to them and ask them what they need. So the general advice that they gave is slow down and tailor support to the specific needs, and there may be different forms for different levels in the institution. So for professors and managers, it may be different from colleagues and individual employees, but it does boil down to ask your colleagues how they are doing, or your classmates, how are they doing? If you appreciate them, then express it. Show them that you care about them. If you are in need, and I would say, made a typo, ask for help if you need it. And also open up about your needs. Identify what it is that you need. And then ask for it. This is, of course, much easier said than done, because this is not something that's easy to do. And it really requires overall system and culture change in our work environment, because now if you ask someone, how are you doing? Often you get the I'm fine. And we know that I'm fine can mean a lot of different things. It can actually mean that I'm fine, which is great, but it can also mean that someone is worried about their mental health, but doesn't know where to go for help, has worries, but is afraid to ask for help, or is afraid of the consequences if they ask for help, or they may not realize that their mental well-being may be declining. Mm-hmm. When I came back from my sick leave, a lot of people in my department actually came to me with saying, hey, I heard you had some mental health stuff going on, and I'm worried about myself, so can we talk? But that's only a very small number of people, and almost everyone else will say they're fine. So it's something to keep in mind. And also maybe check with yourself. If you say you're fine, what do you actually mean?
Hmm.
So that's one of
our viewers wrote, like, I'm the master of repression. So it could be a repression also, like just it's not fine, but I'm fine. Just to say, I'm fine.
Push it down. Yep. That's very common coping technique, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions from the chat that we can address, or should I move on?
There was one question about depression symptoms. We talked about it. They say acid reflux is also somatic symptoms of anxiety sometimes. Yes. One person talking about worrying about death is the most mental anxiety. How can we overcome? So that's a question that maybe you can direct to a mental health professional. Thoughts of death, it could be a sign that you can get help. Maybe it's a nice signal there. What they say, yeah, we don't have a suicidal suicide hotline telephone number in Turkey. We used to have, I checked it, but now it's just like general emergency number. But I found that I will paste the link, the mental health department of the Ministry of Health. There are some, I think in many cities, there are community mental health centers specialized for like public mental health. So you can call them and then make an appointment there also. But you can also go and have a psychiatrist appointment also. And then that's usually the first point to start. First, go to medical doctors, psychiatrist, go there. And then later on, if you need therapy, then you can contact other people. There are groups. If you search for free psychotherapy or psychotherapy for everyone, if you search those terms, there are also in Turkey, there are also some very low prices or even free service of psychotherapy if you need it. So I'm just saying this because there's an idea that is a really expensive thing to have a psychotherapy because it's not covered by insurance, health insurances in Turkey. So I'm just saying it is not that always expensive, and then you can find those groups are providing free psychotherapies, free support. So just go and search for that. And the best place is to go to community mental health centers, toplum ruh sağlığı merkezleri. in Turkish. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to add those. Yeah.
Good. Yes, that's a very good addition. And I really appreciate that people are being open and honest here in the chat. It's not easy, so way to go, guys. Really glad to hear. And indeed, I will also get back to this at the end of the presentation and things that you can do if you feel like you need help. So next, I will go actually to what can you start doing if you feel like you want to even maintain your well-being or improve your mental well-being. So these are going to be these are not going to be big therapy solutions. These are just some very small things that you can maybe do at work and just some overall advice. So don't think this is the magic solution to all of the symptoms that we listed before, just some very practical things that you can practice with. Really oh yes, so we asked this also in our department, so I will share that because we ran out of Menti slides for our current presentation. So I just wanted to share what were the results in our department. So people said, how do you take care of your mental well-being while you're at work? And almost everyone says taking breaks, which is exactly what you do, of course. A lot of people said walking breaks. I think that's the COVID talking. So that's really the only thing we can do now for a break is to go on walks. Some people also said talking to coworkers or colleague or reaching out to someone that I enjoy talking to. Some people said mindfulness or meditation. There were some people that said I actually go to therapy to cope with my my mental well-being. Phone call, someone said talk about it, laugh, drink tea, have a chocolate break. Exercise is also a big one that came up. Coffee.
I see one sad one, never working in weekends.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very important, yes, unfortunately for me, I am kind of working now on my Saturday night, but it doesn't feel like work. I have to be, yes, never working weekends, I think is a very important boundary to keep. And also someone said they don't take care of their mental well-being at work, which is also a valid answer, of course.
Yeah.
So first things first. Taking care of our mental well-being. I really like this analogy of the oxygen mask. If you go on an airplane, you will get the safety instructions, of course, before you take off. And they say in case of an emergency and the oxygen masks come out, you first put it on your own nose and mouth before you help anyone else. And this really applies to our mental well-being too. You really must take care of yourself before you can do anything for anyone else. And so really to say that self-care is not selfish. You can't run on empty. You cannot help someone else if you don't first take care of yourself, if you're not on your feet. So try to make it a priority for yourself. Investing time in your mental well-being will eventually pay out in the long run. It may take some time to start working on it, and it may be difficult at first, but the things that you learn in the process will be really tools that you can use throughout your life. Your mental well-being doesn't have to be another task on your to-do list. It can feel like that, especially in the beginning, but it doesn't have to be. It can be really something that you do for yourself. And it has to come first before some of the other things on your to-do list. So take out some time for it. If it's difficult for you to take that time for yourself, start just very small. Can be just the tiniest thing. And I think something that came out of the Menti word cloud that I just showed is the first thing that you can start to do is take a break. Or even recognize when do you need a break. It may be when you are overwhelmed at work. Maybe when something upsetting happened in your personal life, because work and personal life, we say work-life balance, but in the end you are only one person. So your personal life is gonna affect your your work if you like it or not. You can't
And
switch.
that's actually separate, right? We say
No,
they keep it separate, but
really
also
can't.
like culturally, it's to keep them separate is seen in the like how do you say business life is seen as a strength. You know, oh, this person or that person doesn't bring personal issues to the workplace. Of course, it's not a topic of the business place workplace, but also it's us. It's the same in one body, in one mind. They are the same. So you're right.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be something about work related that you need to take a break, and we can maybe extend this to take a break to students or any other thing. Imagine, you know, you're in a home situation and not working, but in family or in home it's something difficult, so you can also take a break from that, or house chores, or helping your family, attending to someone else. You know, it doesn't have to be a work or a study, but also whatever you're doing, whatever is making you overwhelmed, feeling you overwhelmed, take a break of that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think a good sign for me, this is a good sign to see if you're not getting anything done anymore at work, even if you're working harder or longer hours, or working in the weekend, working at evenings, but it doesn't really have an effect anymore on what you do, or may even have worse results than you were used to. That's the moment to take a break. So can be a long break if you need a vacation, take a vacation, but it can also be a short break. And I will introduce one technique. Maybe some of you already know it. Maybe some of you already use it.
We were doing
called
live
the-
streams with this actually, so our
Good.
audience is also familiar to this.
Oh, you know this.
So
All right.
yeah, into
Good.
which when I was doing those, we had our timer, the Pomodoro technique. So some of them may remember. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, I'll briefly walk you through it. So this is, I think it's called the Pomodoro technique because it's used with a kitchen timer that's shaped like a tomato or a Pomodoro. But doesn't have to actually have anything to do with tomatoes. But it's a method to take breaks. So you plan out your tasks in a given day, and you think how much time do I need for it, or how many Pomodoros do I need for it? And then one Pomodoro is where you work 25 minutes really focused without any distractions. And then you take a 5-minute break, and then you really walk away from your workplace for a bit, take a break, no sneaky working. And then you do those 4 times in a row, 4 Pomodoros, and then you take a longer break for like 15 or 20 minutes, or maybe longer if you want to go for a walk or have lunch. And this is really a way to be deliberate about your breaks and really schedule your breaks, and it will help you stay focused and just practice with taking some breaks. I think there's this timer. You can actually just time it, have it open in a tab, and it will give you a notification if you are ready for your break. I've used this in the past. It worked really well for me. I think I'm going to start using it again after my own vacation. That's going to start on Monday. So
the gist of this technique is like the Pomodoro means tomato in Italian. Then it's like invented by a Italian psychologist, Francesco Cirillo. And the gist of it, actually, usually people think, okay, 25 plus 5, and then you do this. But actually, the first step is the most important step, to plan the tasks, because it forces you to make a big task into small chunks, into 25 minutes of work units. I think that's also the most important thing to miss, because I usually find people without planning just start a Pomodoro. Okay, I'm working, just start Pomodoro, 25-5, 25-5. That's all. But if you don't plan your work and then estimate, because in the beginning I was estimating, how do you say, underestimating the work. I was saying, oh, I will finish it in 2 Pomodoros. It's actually 4. So then I adjust my things. Then you can also give yourself or others a good estimate of the time. This will take this much of time. So don't skip the first step, folks.
No, it's very important. Yes, and we'll go into that a bit more in the next few slides, which is about going from a to-do list to thinking about your to-do list in a different way, because we many people keep to-do lists, and we almost never are able to cross everything off our to-do list. It can be very unmotivating. It can feel like you accomplish nothing in a day, and that will have effects on how you feel about your work and how you feel about your motivation. So we can actually start using our to-do lists in a different way. The first thing is to keep your goals very small and attainable. So instead of saying, I'm gonna finish all of these tasks, I'm gonna clean my entire inbox, or I'm gonna reach out to all of these people, or I'm gonna finish this project today. You can also put on your to-do list, I'm just gonna send that one email, and then it's very easy to check that off your list. Or just reading one paper, and then think, okay, how many Pomodoros do I need for that? And then check that off. Or submit that paper and then just take the entire day for it. So then, and don't put any other to-do list on your task. If you have a big to-do, then just stick to that one and don't add too many more. You can also use your to-do list as a sort of mental dump, where you just put everything on there, but don't feel like you have to check everything off. But it will be a way to keep it out of take it out of your head, so you don't have to put that energy into remembering it, but you can actually just go back to sort of your cheat sheet, kind of things that you thought, oh, I still have to do that, but it's on my sort of bucket list of things to do and not on my current to-do list. So that's something that you can play with. You can also start using a could-do list, where you, for example, have one of those buckets or mental dumps, and you use it as a list of things that you could do or might do, but not have to do right this second. And that way, if you're not reaching that goal or you're not ticking that box, it's not as much, it doesn't feel as much as a failure, because things happen all the time at work. Things come in between. Your day always goes differently than you planned it out to happen. So this will take some of the pressure off to check all of those boxes. Or you could even start doing a to-do list. And this, I think, is useful with the Pomodoro technique too, where you really have to plan your activities in a realistic way. Keep a bit of a buffer, because as we said, things happen, things come in between that have to be attended to. And you can do it a day in advance, so that you know, by ending your day, you know what you're going to do tomorrow. Or you can sometimes do it a week in advance, where you just set out specific days where you're going to work on something. And don't raise the bar too high. Keep the goals very small, because if you put too much on a to-do list, if you put too much on one day, it will be difficult to maintain it, and it will have a demotivating effect. And finally, this is my favorite, a to-do list. Instead of making a list of all the things you're going to do, you are going to make a list of things that you already accomplished. So you can start to celebrate your victories, and it can be very small. It can be, I cleaned my inbox. This is actually something I hope I can do. What's that? Oh, is that your to-do list?
Here's my to-do and to-do list.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
great.
I'm doing it since that seminar, and it's really useful. And
yes.
I will do a bucket one also, because many ideas there. So I will do a bucket list and draw when I have empty time. So it will serve like a could-do list also. So it's like a optional. So it really works to organize it like that.
It really does, yes. And the to-do list, it takes a bit of practice. Sometimes you feel like you really didn't do anything, and then you just go sort of on a treasure hunt of things that you did do. And it can be just, I cleaned my inbox out, which is actually a big task. Just thinking about it, it takes me a large amount of time to clean out my inbox. Can be just, I read that one email, or I sent that one email. Or maybe you're studying and you finished a course, then that can go on your to-do list. Or you updated your resume, or you did something else. Can also be big victories, of course, but they can also be very small. And then celebrate them. Yeah, you can keep them to yourself, of course. You can also share them with a work buddy. We invited people to put them in our department teams, but that really wasn't a big success because it's sometimes difficult to share.
Yeah, I think because like putting there like the small task, I don't know, clearing the inbox. I think like if people share that, it may sound, you know, oh, they did too little compared to others because they don't know what others did. Exactly. So there may be a group pressure, but I really wish to share it one day.
Yeah. One thing that I really liked that someone did share in the teams was that they said no to something and they put that on their to-do list, which I think that's great. That's really, it just not easy to do. So definitely it's a victory if you're able to do that. So that's the to-do list. And then if you Google mental well-being, coping, or mental well-being improvement, or mental well-being anything, you will get a list of usual suspects of things that you can start doing. And I will not dwell on those too much because it can feel very overwhelming to have the whole list of things that you feel like, oh, now I have to start doing all of this and I'm already so stressed and I don't know where to start. So don't feel like you have to start doing all of those things. It can just be pick one and focus on that for a bit. And if it doesn't work, then you move on to the next. You don't have to start doing all of them. So, but I will go through them for a bit. So the first thing that many of those lists say is connect with other people. If you're feeling down or stressed or lonely, then reaching out to someone, it can be really beneficial. Be physically active. Exercising is something that comes up a lot. That doesn't mean that you have to go and crush it in the gym. It can also just be going for a walk, or going for a bike ride, or doing a yoga session in your living room. Something that's easy for you to do. But
or just going out for a walk, right?
Yes.
Just normal walk, even.
Normal walk. Yep. Just being active, not being in your desk. Is something that you can do. Learning a new skill is something that can be very effective. It can give you a feeling of accomplishment, and put also your energy in something else than work. So again, here, start with something small. Can be very beneficial. Doing small acts of kindness to other people, that can really help with feeling better about yourself, feeling better about the world, and feeling like you're doing something good. There's a lot of attention, the current climate, going to mindfulness and meditation practices, being present in the moment. Those also take some time to practice and to get skilled in. So don't feel like you start doing it and it will work right away. That's really not how it works, but it can be beneficial to step out of the worry, step out of the stress, and be present in the moment. So it's something to think about.
Yeah. I took mindfulness training, like 9 weeks of it. It's part of the distress study in MC, you know. So it was part of that. But I noticed it's like a muscle. So when you do it more and more, it's getting easier. So in the beginning, maybe there are nice videos, like 3-minute videos, 5-minute videos, like guided meditations on YouTube.
Exactly.
In English and Turkish. I found those. So if you feel like that, just to take a break, 3 minutes is nothing, like in work life, unless you're like really busy worker. But just like put you on your headphones, and then in work or in your daily life working from home, just take those 3 minutes every day, and then those videos are guiding you where to focus, what to focus, being in the present moment. Because otherwise it's just this sentence, being in the present, is something magical. No one knows how to be in the present moment otherwise.
Exactly. Yes, it's very easy to say, but to do it is something else. So be gentle on yourself in learning those things. And if you're feeling anxious or stressed, you might also benefit from relaxation techniques. Those can be things like breathing exercises, or tension release exercises, where you first tense your muscles up and then release them. And there's more exercises out there.
If you search for Jacobson muscle technique, That's one of the good ones, like the one you mentioned.
Yeah.
So you first tense it and
everything
then
up and then release.
then release it.
Yeah. So those are just those are the usual suspects. You can look for initiatives to learn these things in your community or online. There's a lot of resources out there. Can also be a bit overwhelming, not knowing where to start, but just pick one and stick to one, and start very small. Start even smaller than what you have in mind right now. Just make it as small as possible for yourself. Other steps that you can take if you are looking to do a course, maybe your institution offers courses on stress management and burnout prevention that you can usually find through your occupational health office. There are also courses on putting boundaries and on mindfulness, like Cevdet said. And if you feel like you need help, feel free to reach out to someone. Can start with someone that you trust, maybe your friend or a family member. Tell them how you're feeling and that you may need some help. You can also see if there are confidential counselors in your department, maybe in your workplace or in your institution where you study. Usually your department or your institution will have an occupational health office where these people are very specialized in mental well-being in the workplace. And you can always reach out to your general practitioner or your family doctor with issues with your mental health too.
And
so
by the way, I want to add this, like, one interesting thing. I don't think in Turkey, not many companies have these, or like academy schools have this confidential counselors. So I'm expecting those comments in the chat, like, oh, this is in Netherlands, you have it, but I think in our department there wasn't any. You and Anna-Marie initiated this, right? So that's a really good example. If there aren't any, and you can reach to people and then tell the importance of it, your manager, and then it's just like these were not special people, right? These were just in every level, like at student level, supervisor level, different levels. We just appointed some people, and these are confidential, so secret counselors, so they know, people know who to go, who to talk. And so that's also just I wanted to mention. So it wasn't the case also in our department, but Isabelle make it so don't feel discouraged. Oh, in Turkey or in the company, there's not such a thing. There wasn't such a thing in our department in Netherlands, but we make it so do it. You can initiate something like this. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. And other people may also benefit from it. If you feel like you're nervous to do it by yourself, ask someone at work that you trust. Maybe you can start something up, and that can also be a small act of kindness that you do. So something to think about. But if you feel like you need help, reach out to a family doctor or just someone that you trust. You don't have to carry this backpack full of worries by yourself.
Exactly. We call a general practitioner as aile hekimi in Turkish. So that's a different thing. Just so you know, you can first go to your general practitioner or aile hekimi just to reach, and they will direct you to maybe community mental health center or maybe psychiatrist or psychotherapist. Just go to your doctor. Yeah.
Yes. All right. And then I'm going to leave you with a challenge. And it's something to try. Don't feel like you have to, but if you want, you can do a to-do list for yourself. So keep a to-do list for a few days or a week or a few weeks. Just make a list of everything that you already did on a given day. You can even make a to-do list right now and see what you did today. It's a Saturday, but maybe you still did some things like put out the trash or got out of bed. That can also be something.
Yeah, exactly. It could be a challenge.
Yeah.
Do you recommend mixing personal and work tadas together in one list or keep them separate?
I don't know. I sometimes mix them up. Yeah. If you feel like maybe you're your mental well-being at work is the thing you want to focus on, then make them specific for work. If it's more your private life that you want to focus on, then maybe do it just for your private life. But
exactly.
as we said, we make this distinction in work-life balance, but you are in the end one person. So it can also be mixed, I think.
Yeah, if you have so few, maybe you can merge them. So the examples that you gave are really important. So for tada, something to be tada feeling, it shouldn't be too big, right? That doesn't necessarily to be big. Like again, taking out the trash or something. It's my tada list. But in work, so I will just seeing this challenge and increasing the bet on this. If our followers on Instagram and Twitter, if you keep a tada list for a day, for a week, or whatever, take a picture and mention us, mention Gelecek Bilim'de on Twitter or Instagram, and we will retweet and to show a good example. Here's a tada list from our stream. So we will see, hopefully not like in our department, we will see more examples on Twitter. And I see one of our volunteers, he said he was doing this tada list all the time. This was his way.
Great.
He's keeping the ticks on the to-do list. Yeah.
Amazing. Well done. That's great. Yeah. I also, I had to do it for my therapist last year. I had to keep a to-do list every day. And then I stopped for a while, but now I picked it up again. And it's really fun. You can also make a gratitude list. I know people also do this, 3 things that you're grateful for every day, or just 3 positive things. But something that you want to say, ta-da, this is what I did, will give you a good feeling at the end of the day. So you can make it daily or weekly or whatever frequency works for you. But if you are going to try it, then try to stick with it, because the first one is always easy, but then sticking with it is where it becomes a bit more tricky. And keep the bar low. So I think these are some resources. These are resources that I used for this presentation that we will also post after this live stream. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and let us know if you have questions.
Thank you. Like, it was a long and really useful, really packed with information presentation. So thank you for preparing it. It was really nice.
My pleasure.
Can we share the PDF file of the presentation in our source cloud, because people were asking about it? Okay, so I'm sending the link to the source. You will find other sources of other streams. So it's on one cloud we have, but there will be a folder called with this title of the stream, Mental Wellbeing Workplace. You can find a PDF of this presentation, and then links are there, so they will see. Okay, so maybe we can have some questions for a couple of minutes, then we can wrap this up. I see it's already 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's already long.
Very long.
Yeah. You feel tired?
No, I'm fine.
Like another work shift for you on Saturday.
Yes,
right?
A little bit, but this is
scientist
for
to communicate. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, if you have a question, that's the good time to ask, guys. Lucio asks, in the first step, should we try to fix symptoms of depression, or should we focus on depression itself?
It's a very good question. I think it maybe depends a little bit on how severe your symptoms are. Again, I am not a therapist, so I won't try to fix your symptoms. But sometimes, if you are in the process of dealing with your depression, it's fine to just first focus on the symptoms, and then the rest can come later.
Exactly.
That's what I would say.
So the good route, usually the preferable thing is to, as is in the presentation, and I have a post on Instagram, I will share you right now. It's first to try some of the self-help steps, because sometimes maybe they are just enough to solve it. But that's like an order of doing this. Like, first you notice those things, and then try to do these stuff that we mentioned, like being active, taking breaks, being in the present moment, those things, like making connections, asking help. And then after those, if they are not working, then start asking for professional help, going for a mental health professional. And those are psychiatrists and psychologists, clinical psychologists. I just want to stress this out. Legally, only those two professions are can help you. So don't go for sham professions. And let me share you. I send a link to this post. Let me make it bigger. So about your mental health, if you have these mild symptoms for shorter than, oh, I'm not seeing it, sorry. Yeah, shorter than 2 weeks, and then you can do exercising, have a good sleep, good nutrition, talk with someone that you trust, the same things that Isabelle mentioned. And if you have more severe symptoms that are longer than 2 weeks, then these are those symptoms maybe, and then ask for professional help. That could be a psychiatrist or a psychotherapy. You can go this. And most important thing, for the answer to Lucio's question, you're not alone. So maybe it's not only up to you to decide where to go first. Just ask for help, and then mental health professional can decide if you should go first, fix the symptoms, or focus the depression itself. So you're not alone on this. Maybe
exactly. You don't have to also fix it by yourself, or even feel like you have to fix it right away.
Exactly.
But good on you for asking the question.
Yeah, that's very brave. Exactly, that's very brave. Let me see there. After there are no questions, I think. Yavuz asks, and she can recommend some books that we can check out.
I don't have any books on the top of my head, but I'll give it some thought, and I can share them with Cevdet, and we can put them.
Perfect.
I have on the webpage.
2 books I can share. Also, I recommend them in all mental health streams. One is, let me search for it. They will be in Turkish mainly, but I have one English one also. Yeah, this one. So let me share. So there's a really good, thin, really good book from Middle East Technical University, from the psychology department, and those scientists wrote those. This is a self-help book. It's called How to Protect Our Psychological Health. If we translate it, it's like really cheap, really thin book you can reach, and then to read really good tips. It's a self-help book, maybe just to start doing it. And the other is this Rediscover Your Life. Actually, that's also a really nice book. I can show it. Is it? Yeah, here. That's this book. So Rediscover Your Life. That's from Jeffrey Young and Janet Klosko. That's the Turkish version. I also have it here, like in flash, nice. And it has an English version also. So if you like, you can also try that. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. They are thanking you, Isabelle. Thanks, Isabelle.
Thank you for joining, guys.
Thanks for the presentation.
And your Saturday night.
Yeah. Thank you. And for all the streams, there was constant number of people were watching. And once again, thank you for starting our English live stream series. So that's, again, it's a special, extra special, because that's the kickstart of the series. So we will more frequently have English streams in our channel. All like two purposes. One is to introduce the international science to Turkish audience, to English-speaking Turkish audience, but also create content where we see gaps in any type of language, in English, international language. So we are kind of reaching outside the boundaries of our first founding principle. But now we are doing English streams and international streams, and I'm very, very, very proud of that on behalf of my team also.
Yes, you should be. That's great. Great that you're expanding like this, and best of luck. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the English series.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
So much.
And in Dutch we say heel erg bedankt. So very, 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 very thank you to you. And we will close it here. Take care, everyone, and see you on the next live stream. Bye-bye.
Bye.